2021, and the time is 7 o'clock p.m. The meeting in the City of Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. At this time, please silence all of your electronic devices. If everybody would stand, we'll begin our meeting with Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Roll call. Judy, would you conduct roll call, please?
Ken Dornich.
Present.
Jamie Humphrey.
Here.
Daryl Poling.
Here.
Darren Burkhart.
Here.
David Weigel.
Present.
Mark Bauer.
Thank you. Next item is approval of minutes of our October 28th, 2021 meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read and review those. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there's not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. First item under old business, we have Jill Hart with Xperience AG, a request for assistance with new road construction, but I think she is unable to be here again.
She had a conflict. I don't know what you all want to do with this going forward.
I know
Second month.
Yeah, this is the second one. As far as I'm concerned, I'd say we take it off the agenda until she contacts you again. Agreed. Just feeling.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yeah, I would say for the record to reflect just a motion to remove from agenda until further action by applicant.
So moved.
Motion made by Ken, seconded by Darrell. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item, Mr. May, City Engineer, update of project status for Veterans Way Phase 2.
We are 99.9% complete. The last item I'm aware of is to get the streetlights powered. Duke, I am told, has installed the meter at the service point, so the electrician simply needs to hook all that up and that's ready to go. We did a walkthrough a week ago, Mark, something like that, with our project representative, the contractor, and Mark and I. We noted half a dozen things they need to work on. There is what's referred to as a pre-final inspection scheduled for Tuesday morning. That is kind of the end of the inspecting. The final inspection will be for somebody to assure that any items identified will be taken care of. So it's pretty well there.
Is the crosswalk across the bypass operational?
There,
Or the lights operational?
the signal is fully functional, including the pedestrian phase. However, we had a warning sign on the ramp off of northbound 3 to southbound Lincoln, and that warning sign had flashing beacons, and somebody has already run over one. So because that flasher wasn't up, we, the contractor, in conjunction with our project representative, elected to barricade off the crosswalk until that gets replaced. So it is working, and I've walked across it at least twice now with the signal.
There was some activity going on out there around lunchtime today with the signal boxes. Did see that.
Hopefully, the one north of Lincoln on the east side of 3.
No. On the other side.
It may not be our thing then. Our streetlight controller is right adjacent to 3, kind of opposite Don Meyer Ford.
Okay.
It's I'm gonna call it north. we can buy 50 feet or something.
Somebody had a box open out there. So.
Okay. There's actually the signal controller is right in that same location. Could have been either one. Hopefully it was our subcontractor getting that going. So
You looked official.
they always do. Questions?
That's a wonderful report.
Be more wonderful if we were done.
That's an excellent, I'm really pleased the way it has turned out. I've got a lot of positive remarks on that.
I think we're just beginning to see its use. We're gonna see growth in traffic going through there, even without more development yet. And traffic will begin development. I think it's gonna prove out well. We've experienced a couple of oddities. So the east end of Veterans Way is the old driveway into the Greensburg Common Shopping Center. And people are in the habit, or were in the habit, of just going up the driveway and across the front of the old Tractor Supply and in there. That's now a left turn into a private driveway off of a public street. And people are learning or unlearning their old habit of how they enter and exit. The exit out of the shopping center is probably more egregious, and in a short amount of time, I think that will correct itself. We had some experience at Smith Road and Veterans Way where people, even though there's always been a stop sign on northbound Smith Road at Veterans Way, people have formed the habit of not stopping there because there was no traffic coming from the east. Well, now there is. And people have to learn that they need to stop there and observe traffic and proceed accordingly. So these are typical driving habits that we need to get past in the next month or two.
Has there been any accidents?
None that I'm aware of.
Close calls.
Close calls. It's always, anytime you change traffic control in an intersection, there's a period of time that people have to learn. We've all experienced it, I'm sure, I know I have, where you just drive out of habit. We changed 4th Street and Ireland Street, and people on 4th Street would stop even though there's no longer a stop sign there. And other people would pull up Ireland and not really pay attention to traffic on 4th and just proceed. I don't think we've had any crashes there. Darren, you know better than me. You're there.
Some close calls.
Yeah.
There's some people who figured out they don't have to stop, and
Yeah.
they come flying through there pretty good.
And we will,
There's no stop sign on 4th Street now?
not in Ireland,
Because we've vacated, the Ireland Street north of 4th has been vacated.
and it's now a
Just a
driveway in south of 4th. Yeah. So we did an ordinance a year ago, maybe a little longer, but the ordinance said to wait until the work on the water plant was done before we made that change. It's interesting, I had a lady contact me, and we're diverging, but contacted me and said, you need to tell the people that 4th Street doesn't stop. Well, the first thing we did when we took the 4th Street stop signs down was add yellow warning signs below the stop sign that says cross traffic does not stop. But people aren't observant. So.
How about the next item, update on Indiana Department of Health preparation of a community-wide bicycle and pedestrian master plan?
We have received and reviewed, staff has received and reviewed the final draft copy of the plan. We returned some comments. I think tomorrow our consultant will distribute that draft to the entire steering committee. The plan is for the December meeting of the Plan Commission, which I think is the 21st. It will be presented to the Plan Commission, and the procedure is that if the Plan Commission is in agreement, they will recommend plan into our current comprehensive plan that should go to council in council's January meeting, where by resolution the council would formally adopt that.
Good. Great.
Questions?
How about update on status of Veterans Way residential project?
We had been working on a proposed agreement for a potential developer, and I think we had something pretty well hammered out. And Chris, did that get sent to their legal counsel?
The proposal kind of as it sits now has been sent to their legal counsel, and I need to follow up with him. I have not heard back from him any comment on that, but it is in his hands and being reviewed by he and the builder. So, and then we still have a kind of a timetable on the sale of the property. I have prepared the necessary offer for purchase and notices. We just need to wait on the second appraisal so that we can make sure that we are in compliance with the statute, and then we'll be in a good position to move forward.
So the schedule for the appraisal from the second appraiser is middle into January to get that appraisal back. And we were actually going to offer the residential piece and a couple of the smaller pieces besides, and see what's out there who would be interested in any of that. I'm thinking realistically in your February meeting is when bids could be opened for that. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
The procedure would be, if you don't receive bids at or above your asking price, then you may negotiate with anyone, or do they have to be one of the bidders? I think anyone would.
No, you can negotiate with anyone. It's actually it's a relatively interesting statute, and I'll be honest, we're applying it to this residential TIF project because it's the statute that says this is how a redevelopment commission gets rid of property. I haven't found anybody that's really used one on the residential side. The other two properties are commercial in nature, so they're pretty standard. But so essentially the way the process works is, once you have your appraisals and you have your offer to purchase, which is basically you putting it out there to the world to say, look, if somebody wants to buy it at X amount of dollars, we're willing to sell it at X amount of dollars. Then you have to receive sealed bids, open those bids, and then you can negotiate from there with anybody, really, once you've made an offer to bid. So even if someone were to offer you exactly what you wanted, you wouldn't necessarily have to still sell it to that person. But it doesn't make sense to offer it, at a number that you're willing to accept and then not. But you certainly could. I mean, that's just some general ambiguity that's in the statute. But essentially, the way the statute is written is, once you've offered it to bid, then you can go through the process of negotiating with anybody for really any terms with regard to the sale of the property. But it has to be offered publicly first.
And the offer price has to equal or exceed the average?
Yes, it has to
The
equal or
appraisals.
exceed the average of the appraised values. So you can't go lower. You can't basically take a $100,000 piece of dirt and try and sell it for $10. So you got to say, well, it's a $100,000 piece of dirt. I appraised it for $100,000. I'm going to sell it for some number that's $100,000 or north. Now, again, it's kind of like the beauty of the free market system. If you want to put it out there for $1 million and it only appraises for $100,000, and somebody wants to buy it, bully to you. You made a great deal. So.
Once you advertise for bids, what's the time frame?
So it has to run, its normal bid advertisement rules, so it has to run 2 times, at least 7 days prior to the opening of bids. So essentially, we'll have 2 weeks. So if we were to get it, and as you say, if we were to get the second appraisal mid-January, you should be, I'd have to look at when the February meetings hit under the new, earlier in the month.
It'll be
It'll be February 3rd.
Yeah, you, depending on when you got it, you could be tight. But if you got it relatively early in January, then, like I said, everything else is good to go. I just need to have a second appraisal, and I don't anticipate that the second appraisal is going to substantially change compared to the first appraisal, which means that the number you have picked is probably in the ballpark of a number you can have.
The numbers that were circulated via email earlier were a little north of the first appraisal. So.
Any other comments?
Or questions regarding the Veterans Way residential project? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Moving on to new business. The first item is Mr. David Starkey of Reedy Financial Group, here to give us a presentation about our tax increment financing impact report.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Were you able to print some copies? No. I've got some.
I did not.
No worries. I might be a little short, so we may have to share. So this is your last reporting requirement of the year. Yay. When they did it. And we got all of them in on time. So this is the last checkbox that the DLGF would like to see. The first couple slides of this are just a refresher, just to anybody who wants to take a quick look at that, or just, I wanted to make sure that you guys had this information readily available if you had any questions on just basic terms. But I believe most of you know that from the presentation we gave last, so I'm not going to waste your time with that. But if you have any questions on any terms or just the basics, that's what the first couple of slides are. And you have your list of reporting requirements. We've gone through every single one of them. We just have the very last ones prior to December 31st. We give an annual presentation, and we invite all the overlapping units to partake. So we sent those letters out 2 weeks ago in case any of them wanted to come and learn what their impact is. So the first slide that we'll kind of start at is the overview of your RDC. I think we're about 5 pages in. And that's simply just showing your 2 areas, your original SR 3 corridor development area that was starting in 2000 and has an expiration date of May 2030. And now, for the first year, I get to report on the new housing allocation area as well. We have your TIF code for that there, your start date of 10/15/2020, and your pay year of 2045. Moving on, you have a colorful page showing your overview of your allocation area that currently has activity. So you have your beginning cash balances. In the blue, you have all of your revenues sorted out there. In the orange, you have your capital outlays, your debt payments, your other services and charges, all of your expenditures laid out in that area. Again, these are projections for the end of the year, so we can put stuff on there. It doesn't mean that it's come through yet. When we have the April meeting, we'll go through and you'll see your actual numbers for the end of the year and everything closed up. So these are projected. Like, I know the Stellar project, Pirates Park, probably hasn't had that much activity, but it was promised we put that in the projections in case, just to show that we could spend can see in the yellow, you just have your surplus and deficit, surplusing $20,000 in change, and then your pass-through, which we had a pass-through meeting in July, I believe. And we were not opting to pass through, so the RDC was using the money and had the full right to not pass through any of the cash. And lastly, the 2021 ending cash balance, again, a projection of what we have. In April, we'll show you the real numbers. The very next colorful page of the allocation area is simply the residential housing allocation area. Completely blank because there's been no activity yet, but as that starts to get activity, as that starts to have some revenues flow through, we'll see some updates there. Next slide is the circuit breaker correlation. So this chart on your right is all of the circuit breaker percentages by county. So we go through and we do a project and get everything together, all of that data, so we can tell you where you lie in the state. Currently, Decatur County ranks 27th out of 92 counties, which is fantastic. It's the best one I've had come across my table. I think it's the best for all our clients that we have currently. The circuit breaker moves directly with your TIF margin. That's what the next slide is your TIF impact. This is the meat of the presentation. This is really what the overlapping units are looking for, to see how they're directly impacted by the TIF. So as you can see, you have all the overlapping units listed, and then you can see the circuit breaker impact right there. That impact is money that would be collected by those overlapping units if the TIF was dissolved. The thing is, you can see that for most, the percentage of the budget, there's not much there. And then the important thing to notice is the total impact to the overlapping units is about $100,000. The collections from TIF revenue is just over $1 million. So by creating this TIF, there's an additional $900,000 created for the city to use for redevelopment. If the TIF was dissolved, only $106,000 would be given to the overlapping units. So they have no reason to really worry about what's going on, and if the school typically is the one who does have an issue, there's enough revenue there to be able to donate up to 15% to be able to satisfy their needs. And I will say a TIF margin of 0.9 was by far the highest we got. It's a really healthy TIF to create a lot of growth here. So that very last slide is just a breakdown again of what I just said. The TIF margin is 0.9, meaning that every dollar created by the TIF, 90% of that is from the TIF directly. Only 10% would be given back, or 10% was actually created just from natural growth. So just highlighted those numbers to try to make this a little bit easier on you guys. If you use the front, or if you use the TIF impact chart, you can take the highlighted boxes at their end and connect them to the next page on the TIF benefits. Just kind of gives you a reminder of what exactly those numbers mean once I leave, and if you have any questions, you can kind of refresh on that, just seeing where exactly those are pulled from. And RDC projects in your community, Veterans Parkway, just for now, 99.9% done. Congratulations on that. And that is it. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give you an extra copy of that by chance?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Didn't need to steal yours.
No worries.
Thank you.
Talk about a 90% of
Margin, what's typically do you normally see?
Typically, we see about 0.3. We're happy about 0.3. Anything that dips below 0.2, we have a bit of a concern for, because then the schools can't come in and say, hey, if this is impacting us so much and they're not even able to, if 15% of the revenue doesn't cut it, they can get upset and say, hey, we don't enjoy this, we're gonna fight this. So, yeah, 0.9 is unbelievable. If you have any other further questions, I'll stick around for a bit right after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Next item on the agenda is approval of our claims. We have 6 different claims, 2 related to Veterans Way, Phase 2, 2 both from American Structure Point. One is $24,861.69, and the other one is for preliminary engineering of $512.99. So those 2 add up to $25,374.68. And then we have some regular claims, one from Reedy Financial for October of $2,083.63, and then Stephen Legal Group for November of $1,395. Charles Land Surveying, $1,250, and then Indian Media Group Legal Advertisement, $11.29. So those 4 add up to $4,739.92. So I'd entertain a motion to pay the 2 Veterans Way Phase 2 claims, the total $25,374. Thank you, Ken. Is there a second? Thanks, Jamie. Jamie, second. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then our regular claims, the 4 of those total up to $4,739.92. Entertain a motion to pay those. Thank you, Darren. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ken. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I wanted to share with you, you paid a claim there for American Structure Point for construction engineering. Probably literally by now, they have used all of the money in their contract. And I don't know what their intent is. They still have a little bit of work to do in completing the final construction record. If they ask for an additional to the agreement, I anticipate a very hard discussion about that. They were generous in their staffing of the project, and if they overran the contract amount, they're going to have to justify how much labor they had on that job and what the city, what the redevelopment commission got out of that. So I'm thinking that in your January meeting you will have the final invoice on construction engineering, but don't fully know that yet.
Have you had any discussions with them?
Not yet. Well, yes, all through the project there have been discussions about the amount of the buildings each month and why we had so much labor on it. And
I mean, have they had
they haven't come
discussion
to us
asked
and
for extra?
suggested that they're going to need more money to finish.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, they have not proposed that to us. But Mark very carefully follows those expenditures, and I think you believe right now they're out of money.
They're beyond out of money.
It's a cost plus contract.
I believe are you paying October?
Yes.
So, yeah, they've got a full month in November, and they're running about 23,000 a month to 24. This summer they had enough labor on the staff, they were hitting us with 50 grand for a couple of months.
There hasn't been that much work in the last month. I'm still having labor there.
They have a full-time resident inspector on the job. And the way the project documentation goes now, it's all done in a computer application online, and it's in theory current all the time. In fact, you are not to pay for any work without the appropriate material records in the system to justify the payment. It used to be normal back when we did this on paper to take 3-4 months after construction was done to complete all of the documentation. It's not supposed to work that way anymore. NDOT does allow 45 days for the conclusion of construction to turn in your final construction record. But they're going to need to explain, if they want much more money, they need to explain why we aren't where we should be.
Alrighty. Any other comments from board members? Hearing none, our next meeting will be in January 6th, 2022. At 7 o'clock p.m. right here. Everybody make note of the
7 p.m., right?
7 p.m.
Not 7 a.m.,
Not 7
not
a.m.
6:30, but 7 p.m.
p.m.
Gotcha.
Bring your steaks.
Are you gonna hang around with the pictures?
There's only one up there.
That takes care of our agenda for this evening. We'll
Davey's going
adjourn
back.
our meeting. Thank you all for coming.